Thanksgiving. It's happening next week, folks. We all have the joy, for those that are in America, which I know not everyone listening is, of celebrating Thanksgiving. And hey, if you're not in America, join us. Join us for being thankful. I know that some of my listeners are not listening from the United States. In fact, we have some in Germany, Singapore, Australia, Belgium, United Kingdom, Canada, Sweden, Spain, and Philippines. And I don't even think that's all of them. Yeah, there's more. Okay, for anyone out there, thankfulness. It's something that we should practice every day. As dads, we see this with our kids all the time when they're not being thankful. And I feel so thankful. I'm overflowed with thankfulness for what I have. Let's start this day with thankfulness. All right, today's topics are going to include the following. We're going to talk about the new Trump economy. That seems to be something trending right now. I think a lot of people are talking about it. I'm going to give my own little tidbits on what I think and what I have read are going to be worth noting for real estate investors. I'm going to highlight upcoming guest Tyler Graham. That will be next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. And I'm going to give you guys a little teaser on the topic that we had discussed. Tremendous interview, one of my favorite interviews so far. Going to give just some personal thoughts on what's going on in life. I'm going to wrap up our book talk on the intentional father. I'm going to give that answer to the riddle that I teased out 2 weeks ago. And then just closing thoughts on another book I've started, but just a mindset challenge regarding Hero on a Mission. I don't know if anyone has read that book before. All right, so let's just dive in. The new Trump era, the new Trump economy. All right, so how does this affect you? What are the pros and cons of what's changed there for us, real estate investor wise? First off, taxes seem to be probably one of the biggest conversations in this, but there's also other things that have happened. The Tax Cuts and Job Act was passed during Trump's administration originally, and there were some significant changes that impacted real estate investors. One was lower income tax rates. That means the marginal income tax brackets were reduced, which basically means investors might see more take-home cash, which will provide more capital to reinvest in the properties. Pass-through deductions. If you own a rental property through an LLC or S Corp or another pass-through entity, you may qualify for the 20% qualified business income deduction, which is a huge win for landlords. Talk to your tax professional about this. Bonus depreciation. This one's really big. One of the big changes was the 100% bonus depreciation. It allows you to write off the full cost of qualifying property like appliances or renovations in the year you placed them in service instead of spreading it over several years. So depending on what you are spending on properties, you can do a 100% depreciation onto that first year versus spreading something out over many years. Again, talk to your tax professional about this, but that's good news in regards to government taking less. And then there was talks about 1031 exchanges going away. For those that don't know what a 1031 exchange is, it allows you to defer capital gains when you sell one property or reinvest the proceeds into a like kind property. There was talk of that again disappearing. The provisions survived, which is great news for long-term investors. So basically, as long as you can just keep rolling over properties instead of taking the paycheck and then putting it in your bank account, you just keep rolling over and reinvesting. There are just some challenges. Uncertainty around tax law. With shifting political landscapes, there's always the possibility that new laws could roll back some of these benefits. So nothing is for sure in regards to what is exactly going to happen. State and local tax deduction cap. This is for investors in high tax states, this could significantly reduce tax benefits. They capped the SALT, state and local tax deduction, at $10,000. I think, again, it's good to at least be aware of some of these things that are happening wherever you are. But your CPA, if you have a good one, will hopefully be on top of all these things that you can talk to. And don't ask them this the day before you're filing. Let them know what you're doing now, and if there's any changes that have happened that will affect some potential take-home money. Let's see. Keep an eye on the debt. With interest rate volatility, it's crucial to manage your leverage wisely. Fixed rate loans can provide stability in uncertain times. This is going to be mostly prevalent for, I would say, multifamily investors. Whenever you're structuring debt, and when I say you, I'm really talking to the operating team, the general partners, not the limited partners. But it's very important as a limited partner to understand how they're structuring the debt. Is there a way that the debt ratio is going to flex or float higher or lower based on the feds? Or is there a debt that is fixed rate? So regardless of if the percentages go up or down, you're locked in at this number. One of the coolest things to do is when you can owner finance and lock in a rate with the owner and you don't even have to involve the bank. I've seen many deals and have been on many deals where that's happened. And that is one of the best news you can receive as a limited partner in regards to risk mitigation. All right, those are my thoughts on the Trump economy. It's brought, in my opinion, a lot more opportunities than challenges. Stay educated with your tax professional, and remember, real estate is a long game. So no matter who's in the political hot seat, what do they say? It's not timing the market, it's time in the market that makes you a successful real estate investor. All right, so that was my investment talk for the episode. Podcast updates. So I'm going to have one guest episode come out next week, and that'll be the norm. I realized I went a little crazy with putting out as many episodes as I did. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I for sure did, but where I've settled is I don't want to have a backlog as much as I have. And also I'm being pickier with just exactly who I want to have on the show. Not that any of my guests were bad by any means. I'm going to just say a second on the preview for Tyler's episode. Tyler is a intentional father, and we've talked about that book. But this guy is on LinkedIn, and for anyone that doesn't know his name yet, check him out because he's got a pretty big following and has dedicated his work toward helping dads. So he is all-star dad mode. He has some coaching programs that are really cool, and they're really just meant to it's almost like a life coach, a dad-centered life coach is how I would view him. But super approachable, down-to-earth, relatable dad that really enjoyed speaking with him. And he emphasized the idea of slowing down with me. His coaching program is called the 3 mile per hour dad or something like that. And it's just the idea of not being in such a rush. So let that be a teaser for you to know what is coming in regards to some super insightful, valuable lessons from a dad. He's got 6 kids, by the way. Speaking of fast and slow, maybe this is just me and my own entrepreneurial journey, but you follow these people on Facebook or Instagram and there's hashtags, more urgency, or you got to go fast. Or if you're not running, you're getting behind. And I hear that, and I actually agree with a lot of it in regards to, dude, just keep moving. You gotta move forward. And if you don't put any urgency behind what you're doing today, who's to say you're even gonna get it done? It may just be on your back burners forever. So there's a generalness that I think is good in regards to moving fast. But the flip side of that is, how much margin do you have in your day to be able to take on unexpected things? And if you're always in a hurry, who's to say your kids or your wife or anyone meeting you feels enabled to connect with you? And we're not all wired the same. I'm more relational than probably the next guy. And then there's lots of task-focused analytical thinkers that I need in my life and want on my team, because that's an area that I'm not always focused on. However, I think we miss a lot of opportunities, and let's just focus on the kids there. If we're always go, 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 hey, we got to get to the next appointment. Hey, why haven't you done this yet? You're moving slow. You're just going to be obviously producing that same type of person as they grow up. And I just feel like there's a danger there of missing some gifts and some relational piece that going slow enables you to do. All right, an intentional father. So we're going to wrap this up today. I've really enjoyed the book. It continues to be the book that I send to people after I talk with them about dad stuff. It's been such a good, rich text content book. This is John Tyson's book. We've gone over the chapters throughout the last couple episodes on the Friday talks. But the last one kind of caught me by surprise, actually. Last two chapters, the gap year. I wasn't ready for this chapter at all, but the author says, hey, consider sending your kid to some third world countries between his high school and college year. Let him see the world, experience what it's like to be not in America, and just explore that mindset. And there's a place called World Race. Let me double check this real quick. Race missions. Let's change the world together, not a year off, but a year up. Get in touch with us now. Discover more of God, yourself, and the calling, all that during the gap year. Join us. Yeah. Christian mission trip. I think he said it was like $15,000. So I was just completely unlearned about that. I'd never heard of that, never thought of it. But this thing called worldrace.org, check it out for anyone with kids getting closer to that age. And honestly, my son's 8. I would have never considered this if I had a little amount of time to think about it. In fact, the fact that I'm even saying it now makes me think I might do it by the time my son is that age. But really interesting idea that this guy, he was like trying to basically make his own gap year world race type of thing. And then someone said, hey, you should look at this website. And he's, oh, this is exactly what I've been looking for. It's already been done. And his son did it, and it was life-changing. And then the final chapter is like that, or the second to last chapter is the ceremony of your son to manhood. And he talked the ceremony of welcome and blessing. And he did this like 500 mile hike in Mexico. Forget the name of it. Maybe everyone's, you never heard of that? But he went with his son. It took him like a month. But when they got to the end, the mountaintop, whatever, he was like, you've made it. Like, welcome. It was really cool, really emotional in regards to thinking about our kids doing some of these things. This feels very far off for me, but I know it's going to be coming up real quick. And I think what I've been blessed by through reading this book has been the lens that I view my conversations with my son and the moments with him. And if there was a moment where I wanted to like roll my eyes or just not really give him attention or just step back from a potential life moment, life teaching moment, I'm now much more engaged into getting on his level and using some of these moments to take him the next step. And everyone's kids have different recipes, of course. That's why this podcast hopefully is encouraging that like what I'm saying I'm doing with my kids and what other guests say what they're doing with their kids doesn't mean that's exactly what you have to do. If you're like me, it does help to have a guide saying, oh, you should try this, but it doesn't mean like you're a failure if you don't do it. But as dads, we know our role is important. And I just love that concept of you really need to have a plan. You need to be intentional about what you're doing with your kids. You don't have to do the A to Z of what this guy tells you to do. Maybe makes you feel bad that you're not doing all the level of stuff that he's doing. But some really amazing nuggets. The one that he said, I think, a few times toward the end of the book was, beware the soul-sucking voice of reasonableness when creating memories with your kids. And you can't go over the top every single day with like money stuff that's unreasonable. But I think there's just ways to have a few really cool memories that you can share with your kids while they're young, specifically your sons, that will last a lifetime. All right, that riddle I had given, we're going to conclude the riddle challenge with this one. For anyone that loves riddles, just know that I'm with you. I had said, you stare at me, I stare at you. I have 3 eyes, but never blink. You obey me with your hands and your feet. What am I? The answer is a stoplight. All right, we're going to conclude with the most recent life mindset lesson I've learned over the last week has been a book that I started called Hero on a Mission. Hired a life coach. His name's Justin. It's been excellent for me to have someone speak into my life in this way. Would recommend for anyone out there who just maybe is feeling a little bit isolated, find a life coach, executive coach. Would love to pass on Justin's contact info on this one, but someone that can just check in with you. And if they're being qualified makes all the difference in my opinion, but even if it's just an accountability thing, one of the ways we've started has been him just asking me on Mondays, hey, what are your big 3 for the week? And then on Fridays saying, did you get those big 3 done? Something as simple as that might help you go forward in your next step as a dad, maybe your next step in your career, in your marriage. I love the concept of accountability, collaboration, togetherness. It's one of my core values. I just feel like we are so likely to fail not being connected with people and just being in our heads. So Justin has encouraged me in reading this book, Hero on a Mission, to help in this self-awareness factor of who I am and what I'm doing. There's 4 types of characters in every story, and it's the same no matter what story you're reading. There's the hero, the villain, the victim, and the guide. And the book talks about there's two of these characters you want to make sure you're staying away from, the villain and the victim. And the other 2, you want to be one of those guys, the hero or the guide. And of course, you wear sort of different hats throughout the day, depending on what you're thinking about. But I have been fighting that victim mindset earlier in my career. But even now, as an entrepreneur, there's days that I'm struggling. And the whole point really that I'm about on chapter 8 right now, but I think the key takeaway for me is I'm writing my story, and there is a level of sovereignty as a Christian that I feel like God has good plans for me that I have to believe in. And knowing that I can act and use my brain that God's given me to make decisions and to take risks, help others, love my family, love my kids, etc. So given that knowledge, am I a guide in my story, or am I a hero, or am I one of the villains or the victims? And obviously I feel very called to be a guide, especially as a dad. The hero is actually not looked upon as like the best person in the story, in the book right now. Like the hero is usually just a victim that's making good choices, where the guide is someone that says, hey, let me help you along and let me serve. I'm not the hero of the story. I'm not the center point. The story doesn't revolve around me. I'm just guiding others. And that's exactly where I want to be. And as a Christian, even more so, I want to be guiding others toward Christ. And he's the center of the story. He's the center. He's the star of the Bible. And he's the star of my life. And I just want to be helping guide people to him and his love. Now, if that's through real estate, if that's through just the neighborhood walk, if that's my son as he journeys, that's my mission. All right, these Friday chats. So a lot of what I have on these episodes is what's on my heart. Thank you all for joining me today on the Invested Fathers. Looking forward to continuing this through the holidays. Thanks for listening. Have a great Friday.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Invested Fathers podcast. If you liked this episode, we would love for you to click subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We appreciate all of your hard work as a father and look forward to our next episode together.